February 26, 1949. A cramped storage facility in Crawley, West Sussex, England. Detective Inspector Albert Webb pushes open the door to workshop number 2 at the Hurst-Leah Products Company. The smell hits him first. Acrid, chemical, overwhelming. His torch beam cuts through the darkness, sweeping across the concrete floor until it catches something that makes his breath stop. A .38 Webley revolver, a leather briefcase, and a 45-gallon drum filled with thick, viscous sludge. Webb moves closer. Floating in the oily liquid, he sees what looks like part of a denture. Human gallstones. Fragments of bone that the acid couldn't quite dissolve. In the corner, neatly stacked like a shopkeeper's inventory, sit containers of concentrated sulfuric acid. Enough to dissolve several human bodies. The detective's hands shake as he writes in his notebook. Because upstairs, sitting calmly in the police station, a dapper gentleman in a well-tailored suit has just confessed to murder. Not one murder, 9 murders. But the truth was far more terrifying than even the detective could imagine. Before we uncover the truth about the acid bath murderer, John Haig's dissolving chamber of horrors from 1940s England, make sure to subscribe to the Fear Abbey and ring that notification bell. We dive deep into the darkest corners of history that textbooks won't touch. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. We love hearing from our community of mystery seekers around the world. Now let's step back to post-war Britain, where rationing, rebuilding, and respectability concealed one of the most methodical killers in criminal history. London, 1944. The city is scarred and weary. After 5 years of war, Britain is a nation of survivors picking through the rubble of the Blitz. V-2 rockets still fall from the sky without warning. Food rationing means families live on powdered eggs and hope. The black market thrives in the shadows, selling everything from silk stockings to stolen petrol coupons. In this world of scarcity and suspicion, people disappear all the time. A boarding house empties during an air raid, and no one questions the empty rooms. A businessman fails to return from a trip to the countryside. Perhaps he caught shrapnel from a doodlebug. The authorities have more pressing concerns than tracking down every missing person when entire neighborhoods can vanish in a single night of bombing. This is the perfect hunting ground for a particular type of predator. John George Haigh is born in Stamford, Lincolnshire in 1909 into a world of strict religious doctrine. His parents belonged to the Plymouth Brethren, a fundamentalist Christian sect that views the outside world as corrupt and sinful. Young John grows up behind a 10-foot-high fence his father builds around their home, a physical barrier between the family and the contamination of society. No radio, no newspapers, no friends visiting. Every evening his father reads from the Bible, emphasizing passages about damnation, hellfire, and the wages of sin. But John is curious, intelligent, charismatic even. By his teenage years he's already leading a double life. The dutiful son at home, the charming con artist in the streets of Leeds, where his family eventually moves. He has a gift, an uncanny ability to read people, to tell them exactly what they want to hear, to make them trust him completely. At 24, he marries Betty Hamerton. Within months, he's arrested for fraud, selling cars he doesn't own to unsuspecting buyers. He serves his first prison sentence at Leeds Assizes. Betty divorces him. He doesn't seem to care. Prison becomes a revolving door. Fraud, theft, more fraud. He spends the late 1930s cycling through various schemes, always targeting the vulnerable, the trusting, the isolated. But something is changing inside John Haigh. The cons aren't enough anymore. He later claims he begins having dreams, nightmares drenched in blood. He dreams of forests of crucifixes dripping with crimson liquid. He dreams of drinking blood from golden chalices. He wakes with an overwhelming thirst that water cannot quench. Whether these dreams are real or a carefully constructed insanity defense, we may never know. But in 1944, something shifts from fantasy to reality. The war provides perfect cover. The chaos, the missing persons, the general atmosphere of death and destruction that hangs over Britain like smoke from burning buildings. John Haigh, now 35, has transformed himself yet again. He's no longer just a petty fraudster. He's wearing expensive suits. He's living at the Onslow Court Hotel in South Kensington, one of London's most respectable addresses. He's telling people he's an engineer, an inventor, a man of business and substance, and he's learned something crucial during his prison terms. How to dissolve a body using acid, September 1944. The Goat Public House in Kensington, William Donald McSwan, a young man of 21, sits across from John Haigh discussing business. McSwan comes from a property-owning family. Exactly the type of connection Haigh cultivates. They've known each other since before the war, a casual acquaintance built on shared drinks and seemingly friendly conversation. McSwan mentions he's trying to avoid military service. He's worried about the call-up papers. Haigh listens with the sympathetic ear of a trusted friend. "I know a place you could lay low," Haigh suggests. "A basement in Gloucester Road. You could stay there until things blow over. No one would know." On September 9, 1944, William McSwan follows John Haigh down the steps into a workshop basement. He never comes back up. Haigh later describes the moment with chilling precision, one blow to the head with a table leg. McSwan falls. Haigh waits until he's certain the young man is dead, then gets to work. He fills a 40-gallon tank with concentrated sulfuric acid, tips the body inside, waits. 3 days later, there's nothing left but a greasy sludge that Haigh pours down a drain. No body, no evidence, no crime, or so he believes. But McSwan's parents are worried. Their son has vanished. They receive letters supposedly from William saying he's gone into hiding to avoid conscription. The handwriting looks right. The details are convincing. They're confused, but the explanation fits the times. Many young men are evading service. What Donald and Amy McSwan don't know is that John Haigh has become very skilled at forgery. He's been practicing their son's signature, studying his writing style, crafting letters that sound exactly like William. For months, Haigh maintains this deception. He even impersonates William in person when necessary, keeping just enough distance to avoid close scrutiny. The McSwans continue to receive their son's rental income from properties, forwarded through Haigh, who takes a substantial cut as a management fee. But Haigh has tasted something intoxicating. Not blood, despite his later claims, but power. The godlike power of making someone vanish completely, of manipulating grieving parents, of quite literally dissolving another human being into nothing. One murder isn't enough. July 2, 1945. The war in Europe has ended. VE Day celebrations have faded. Britain begins the long, painful process of demobilization and reconstruction. Donald McSwan, William's father, is becoming insistent. He wants to see his son. The letters aren't enough anymore. Haigh realizes the deception cannot continue indefinitely. He invites Donald to the basement workshop. "William is waiting for you there," he says. The elderly man descends the steps, expecting a reunion. Instead, he receives the same blow to the head, the same acid bath, the same complete dissolution. 3 days later, Haigh calls on Amy McSwan, William's mother. He's sympathetic, concerned. "Donald asked me to bring you to see William," he explains. They're both waiting. Amy, desperate to see her husband. And son, accompanies Haigh to Gloucester Road. She becomes the third victim to dissolve an acid in that basement workshop. Now comes the truly meticulous part of Haigh's operation. He doesn't just kill the McSwans, he assumes their entire existence. Using forged documents and his considerable talent for deception, he transfers their properties into his name. He sells their assets. He effectively becomes their legal heir, all while maintaining the fiction that the family is alive but choosing to remain in hiding. The scheme works because post-war Britain is drowning in paperwork and bureaucratic confusion. Rationing boards, housing authorities, tax offices. Everyone is overwhelmed. A few forged signatures, a few convincing letters, and entire estates can change hands. Haigh nets approximately $4,000 from the McSwan murders, roughly $200,000 in today's money. He uses it to maintain his lifestyle at the Onslow Court Hotel, to buy fine clothes, to gamble at dog tracks, to create the appearance of a successful businessman. But money burns through his fingers like acid through flesh. By 1947, he's desperate again. The McSwan funds are nearly exhausted. Haigh needs another source of income, another victim. But this time, he modifies his approach. Dr. Archibald Henderson and his wife Rosalie are a well-to-do couple in their 50s. They own property, have investments, and crucially, they trust John Haigh. He's presented himself as an inventor working on revolutionary engineering projects. Dr. Henderson, a medical man with an interest in innovation, finds Haigh fascinating. Haigh tells the Hendersons about a workshop in Crawley, West Sussex, where he's supposedly developing synthetic materials for manufacturing. Would they like to see it? Perhaps invest in this promising venture? February 12, 1948. Dr. Henderson drives to Crawley with Haigh, while Rosalie stays in London. The workshop is real enough. Haigh has rented it from a small company called Herstlia Products. But there's no invention, only drums of acid waiting in the shadows. Dr. Henderson is shot in the head with a .38 Webley revolver. His body goes into the acid. Haigh drives the doctor's car back to London. "Your husband asked me to collect you," he tells Rosalie. "There's been a development with the project." Rosalie Henderson, trusting and unsuspecting, drives to Crawley with Haigh the next day. She suffers the same fate as her husband. This time, Haigh's forgery scheme is even more elaborate. He doesn't just steal the Hendersons' property. He sells their home, forges letters explaining they've decided to move to South Africa, creates an entire fictional narrative of their emigration. He even sells their beloved red setter, Pat, to a new owner. The scheme nets him approximately $8,000. But there's a problem Haigh doesn't anticipate. Rosalie Henderson's brother, who lives abroad, becomes suspicious about the sudden move to South Africa. He contacts the authorities, raising questions that don't have easy answers. Still, in 1948, with thousands of Britons actually emigrating to the Commonwealth countries, the story is plausible enough. The investigation stalls. No bodies, no crime. Haigh has perfected his method, or so he believes. If this story is giving you chills, hit that like button. Share this with someone who loves dark mysteries, because what happens next shows how even the most meticulous killers eventually make mistakes. Let's discover how John Haigh's carefully constructed world begins to crumble. February 14, 1949, Valentine's Day. 69-year-old Olive Durand-Deacon is a widow living at the Onslow Court Hotel, the same establishment where John Haigh maintains his residence. She's a dignified woman with money, jewelry, and a trusting nature. She's mentioned to Haigh an idea she has for manufacturing artificial fingernails. Haigh, perpetually in need of funds, sees opportunity. He's gambled away the Henderson money at Greyhound tracks. Living beyond his means, paying for his hotel room on credit, maintaining the facade of prosperity while debts pile up like bodies in acid drums. Olive Durand-Deacon, with her estate and valuable jewelry, represents a solution. On February 18th, he invites her to visit his workshop in Crawley to discuss her invention idea. She's excited, flattered by his interest. She tells her friend Constance Lane that she's going to Crawley with that charming Mr. Haigh. They drive to West Sussex in Haigh's borrowed car. At the workshop, Haigh shoots her in the back of the head. He removes her Persian lamb coat, her jewelry, her rings. Then he tips her body into a 45-gallon drum and fills it with sulfuric acid. While Olive Durand-Deacon dissolves, Haigh drives to Ye Old Ancient Prior's restaurant in Crawley and orders poached eggs on toast for dinner. He returns to the workshop later to check on the acid's progress, but this time, he's made a critical error. On February 19th, Constance Lane approaches Haigh in the hotel lounge. She's worried. Olive didn't return from their trip yesterday. Has he seen her? Haigh, maintaining his composure, says no. How strange. Perhaps they should report her missing. This is his mistake, inserting himself into the investigation. A truly careful criminal would distance himself. Instead, Haigh accompanies Constance Lane to Chelsea Police Station to report Olive missing. The officers taking the report are polite but routine. Another missing person. It happens. But something about Haigh's manner catches Detective Inspector Albert Webb's attention. The man is too helpful, too concerned, too detailed in his explanations. Webb makes inquiries. Quiet inquiries. What he learns troubles him. John Haigh has a criminal record. Fraud, theft, forgery. The man presenting himself as a respectable engineer is actually a career criminal. Moreover, people seem to disappear around him. The McSwans, the Hendersons. Now Olive Durand-Deacon. On February 26th, Webb obtains a warrant to search Haigh's workshop in Crawley. The moment the detective pushes open that door, the game is over. The revolver. The briefcase containing forged documents and letters. The acid drums. And in one drum, still partially intact, Olive Durand-Deacon's dentures, recognizable and identifiable. Her gallstones, resistant to acid. Fragments of bone. A lipstick tube. Haigh has miscalculated the acid's power. He's dissolved the soft tissue, but certain materials, bone, teeth, stones formed inside the body, resist complete dissolution. It's enough for identification. But even now, Haigh believes he has an escape route. When arrested, he asks Detective Webb, "Tell me frankly, what are the chances of anyone being released from Broadmoor?" He's referring to the psychiatric hospital for the criminally insane. Webb is confused. "I can't discuss that." Haigh leans forward, a strange smile on his face. "Well, if I told you the truth, you wouldn't believe me. It sounds too fantastic to believe." "Try me," Webb says. What follows is one of the most bizarre confessions in British criminal history. Haigh claims he's killed not one person, but 9. He describes the murders in meticulous detail. The McSwans, the Hendersons, Olive Durand-Deacon, and 3 other victims he calls John and Mary Henderson, no relation to the previous Hendersons, and a young man named Max. He explains his acid bath method with the pride of a craftsman discussing technique, but then comes the twist he believes will save him. "I drink their blood," he tells the astonished detective. "I have dreams of crucifixes dripping blood. I wake with an uncontrollable thirst. I make a small incision in their necks and drink from a glass. That's why I kill them. I'm compelled by forces beyond my control." He's constructing an insanity defense in real time. He believes that if he appears mad enough, if his crimes seem motiveless and driven by delusion, he'll avoid the gallows and spend his life in comfortable psychiatric care instead of facing execution. Detective Webb writes every word. The confession will prove critical, but not in the way Haigh expects. The investigation that follows is both meticulous and grotesque. Forensic pathologist Keith Simpson arrives at the Crawley workshop with his team. What they find revolutionizes forensic science in Britain. Simpson, already famous for his work on other high-profile cases, approaches the acid sludge with scientific precision. Using careful filtration and chemical analysis, Simpson's team recovers 28 pounds of human body fat, 18 bone fragments including part of a left foot, 3 gallstones, a complete set of dentures, that all of Durand-Deacon's dentist identifies immediately. He'd made them himself, and they contained distinctive features. Most remarkably, Simpson finds remnants that Haigh never anticipated. The acrylic plastic of the dentures partially survives the acid. Sections of ankle bone are identifiable. The stones formed in Olive's gallbladder are chemically inert and survive intact. It's enough to prove murder. More than enough. But Haigh's confession creates complications. The 3 additional victims he mentions, the mysterious other Hendersons and the young man Max, cannot be verified. Did Haigh really kill 9 people, or is he inflating his count to appear more insane? Investigators search for evidence of these other victims but find nothing conclusive. The Henderson and McSwan murders, however, can be proven through financial records. Haigh's forgeries are extensive, but they create a paper trail that investigators follow backward. Property transfers, bank accounts, signatures that handwriting experts determine are fraudulent. The prosecution builds its case around a simple question: is John Haigh insane, or is he a calculating killer trying to manipulate the justice system? On July 18, 1949, the trial begins at Sussex Assizes in Lewes. The case attracts massive public attention. Newspapers call him the acid bath murderer and the vampire killer. The courtroom is packed daily with spectators desperate for seats. Haigh's defense team, led by Sir David Maxwell Fyfe, attempts to prove insanity. They present his claims about drinking blood, about the recurring nightmares of crucifixes, about the compulsion beyond his control. They call psychiatric experts who testify that Haigh may genuinely believe these delusions. But the prosecution, led by Sir Hartley Shawcross, presents a different picture. They show the jury Haigh's methodical planning, the rental of the workshop specifically for dissolving bodies, the purchase of acid in quantities designed for complete dissolution, the forged documents prepared in advance, the sale of victims' property for maximum profit. Most damningly, they present evidence that Haigh researched whether a person could be convicted of murder without a body. He'd apparently asked this question of associates in the past, indicating premeditation and awareness of legal loopholes. The prosecution argues that Haigh's madness is a performance. The blood-drinking claims emerge only after his arrest, never before. No evidence supports these vampiric acts. Not from the crime scenes, not from witnesses, not from any source except Haigh's own convenient testimony. The trial lasts just 2 days. The jury deliberates for 15 minutes. Guilty. John George Haigh shows no emotion when the verdict is read. When the judge dons the black cap and sentences him to death by hanging, Haigh maintains his composure. Some observers note he seems almost relieved. The performance is over. In the condemned cell at Wandsworth Prison, Haigh writes his memoirs. He gives interviews to newspapers, selling his story for money that he hopes will benefit his elderly parents, though whether they receive anything is unclear. He maintains his vampire persona in some accounts while dropping it in others as if he can't decide which role to play anymore. Dr. Henry Yellowlees, a psychiatrist who examines Haigh extensively, concludes that he's a psychopathic personality but not legally insane. Haigh understands right from wrong. He simply doesn't care. The blood-drinking claims are likely fabrications designed to manipulate the legal system. On August 10, 1949, at 9:00 a.m., John Haigh is hanged at Wandsworth Prison by executioner Albert Pierpoint. The execution is reportedly quick and efficient. Haigh's last recorded words are about his parents. "I hope they will be all right." His body is buried in an unmarked grave within the prison walls, as is customary for executed criminals. The workshop in Crawley is dismantled. The acid drums are destroyed. The building stands empty for years before being demolished. Even decades later, locals avoid the area, as if the ground itself is contaminated by what happened there. The Haigh case transforms British forensic science and legal precedent in ways that echo through the decades. Before John Haigh, the principle of corpus delicti, that you need a body to prove murder, was widely misunderstood. Many believed that without a corpse, no murder conviction was possible. Haigh himself believed this, which is why he chose acid as his weapon. The successful prosecution proves otherwise. Circumstantial evidence, combined with partial remains and strong forensic science, can secure a conviction. This precedent opens the door for solving no-body murders that previously seemed impossible to prosecute. Keith Simpson's forensic work on the acid residue becomes a landmark in pathology. His methods for recovering and analyzing degraded remains influence crime scene investigation worldwide. The case is studied in forensic science programs for generations, but the broader implications extend beyond forensics. The Haigh case reveals how easily trust can be weaponized. Each of his victims trusted him. They saw a well-dressed, articulate man who spoke their language, who shared their social circles, who seemed to belong in their respectable world. The McSwans trusted him as a family friend. The Hendersons trusted him as a fellow professional. Olive Durand-Deacon trusted him as a hotel acquaintance. None of them saw the predator beneath the charm. In post-war Britain, where communities are fractured and traditional social bonds are strained, this vulnerability is particularly acute. The war has created thousands of displaced persons, new social arrangements, opportunities for reinvention. People like Haigh exploit this fluidity. The case also raises uncomfortable questions about the insanity defense. Haigh's attempt to feign madness is so transparent that it almost seems theatrical. Yet it forces the legal system to grapple with how to distinguish genuine mental illness from calculated deception. The Manhattan Rules, Britain's legal test for insanity, are scrutinized and debated. Can a person be both psychopathic and sane? Can someone commit horrific acts yet still understand right from wrong? The Haigh case provides a stark example that challenges simplistic categories. Psychiatrist Henry Yellowleese's assessment of Haigh as a psychopath who is nonetheless legally sane becomes influential in how courts approach personality disorders versus psychotic delusions. This distinction shapes British mental health law for decades. The media sensation surrounding the trial also reveals society's fascination with serial killers. Newspapers sell out daily during the trial. Crowds gather outside the courthouse. Haigh's memoirs attract bidders. This isn't new. Victorian Londoners flock to Jack the Ripper crime scenes. But the Haigh case occurs in the age of mass media. Photographs, detailed court transcripts, sensationalist headlines, all contribute to creating the modern serial killer as a figure of public obsession. Critics argue that this attention glorifies violence and provides a platform for psychopaths seeking notoriety. Supporters contend that public trials and transparent journalism serve democracy and justice. The debate continues today. In practical terms, the case leads to reforms in how missing persons are investigated. Police forces begin taking disappearances more seriously, particularly when patterns emerge. The idea that someone could vanish and be presumed to have moved away or gone into hiding becomes less acceptable. Record-keeping improves. Property transfers are scrutinized more carefully. The chaos of the war years gives way to more systematic bureaucracy, partly as a response to cases like Haigh's, where forged documents and false identities allowed a killer to operate freely. The Onslow Court Hotel, Haigh's base of operations, becomes infamous. For years afterward, it struggles with its association to the murders. The hotel eventually closes and is converted to other uses, but the address retains its dark reputation. Similar patterns appear in later cases. In the 1980s, Dennis Nilsen murders young men in London, disposing of bodies by boiling flesh and flushing it down drains. In the 1990s, acid attacks and acid disposal of bodies appear in various criminal cases worldwide. Each time, investigators reference the Haigh case as a historical precedent. His methods, and the forensic responses to them, become part of the criminal investigation playbook. Perhaps most significantly, the case challenges the myth of the stranger danger predator. Haigh didn't snatch victims from dark alleys. He didn't wear a mask or lurk in shadows. He sat in hotel lounges. He dressed well. He discussed business and inventions. He was invited into lives, trusted with confidences, welcomed as a friend. This is the truly terrifying lesson. The most dangerous predators often wear the most convincing disguises. They're not monsters in appearance. They're the charming stranger who offers help, the business associate with credentials, the friendly neighbor with a sympathetic ear. They're human. That's what makes them so dangerous. What do you think drove John Haigh to such calculated evil? Was it the repressive religious upbringing that created a personality fracture? The simple greed of a career criminal escalating to the ultimate crime? Or something darker, a genuine psychological need for dominance and control that expressed itself through the godlike power of making people vanish. Leave your theories in the comments below. We read every response and love hearing your perspectives on these dark chapters of history. The line between sanity and madness, between calculated evil and psychological compulsion, remains blurry even 75 years later. Haigh's case reminds us that monsters don't always announce themselves. Sometimes they shake your hand, smile warmly, and offer to help with your business ventures. If you found this deep dive into John Haigh's acid bath murders compelling, subscribe to the Fear Abbey for more lost chapters of criminal history. We uncover the stories that haunt the margins of the history books, the ones that reveal uncomfortable truths about human nature. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. Share this with fellow true crime enthusiasts who appreciate historically accurate deep dives into darkness. The past holds secrets that still have the power to chill us. Next time, we'll explore another forgotten horror that history tried to dissolve. Until then, remember, the most dangerous predators are often the ones you'd never suspect. See you in the next video.